Shout out young Tommen.
Yeah, hey, friend of the podcast. Good to see you, buddy.
So let's talk about young Tommen Baratheon. I wrote down in my notes Tommen, parentheses, he was so bad, I'm not going to look up and try and remember his name.
What? You can't say that.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, friend of the podcast, Tommen.
Dean Charles Chapman, he's a listener. You can't say that. Dean, we're sorry. Hey, come on, man. Damn.
I mean, do you guys agree? Like, hit me back. I mean,
He was fine.
Take now if you want, but
He was phoning it in, man. He was just hot off 1917. He couldn't spend that much time on this crap. He was just like, sure, pay me Netflix. I'll show up. I'll knock my line readings out of the park, and I'll go about my business. How he does. My boy. Come on.
He did what he had to do. He got in, got out. Boom. He got his paycheck.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Straight to VHS, the Chris and Carson Show. I'm Carson.
Hi, Carson. It's me, Chris.
Hi, fellas. It's Kyle. How y'all
Hey,
doing?
Kyle. What's up, man?
Hey, Chris.
How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for asking, actually.
You sound like you're just really healthy and just living life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Carson,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
I'm good. Kyle, you good?
I'm good. Chris, you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right.
So you guys know I kind of wear multiple hats with this podcast. Not only am I a host, I also am your HR representative. So,
I actually was not aware of that, but continue.
who do you think's been like filing the insurance policies, and where do you think when you file those complaints against Kyle, who do you think has to read them?
I thought it was sort of like a writing letters to no one sort of activity. So you like express how you feel, and then but you've been getting those.
Wait, who's been writing letters about me?
Just Carson. Don't worry about it. Well, actually, maybe a little bit worried because Kyle, I don't know if you know, as an intern, every 3 months you have to go through a kind of review process, performance review. And so today, as you know, happy 3-month anniversary, Kyle, first off.
Well, thank you.
We're really happy to have you.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm also wondering why I'm hearing about this process for the first time on the podcast.
Well, it's because I'm a really bad HR rep.
Okay. As long as we get that out of the way. Then
I think you must also be really bad at math. Like, there's no way Kyle's been doing the podcast for 3 months.
What do you mean? I think it's pretty close.
We existed for 3 months? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Well, I think the best performance review always starts with a little bit of self-reflection. So, Kyle, please tell us your greatest strength and your greatest weakness as a podcaster.
Ooh, greatest strength and greatest weakness. Well, my greatest strength would be supporting my great hosts, Carson and Chris, I feel like, and just trying to be supportive in whatever they do and just kind of going with the flow and not trying to bog things down and just rolling with the punches, so to speak. It's
a real long run-on single strength, but okay.
My weakness might be that I'm a little long-winded. If you let me finish.
Sorry.
I'm going to say his greatest weakness is reflection because there's no way that's his strength.
I think, if I may, Kyle, your greatest weakness is your devilish good looks because it really doesn't help you in the podcast world.
Yeah. Why am I stuck behind a microphone?
Yeah, it's wasted. You should have gone into a YouTube career. You could have been a prank video dude or something.
Ooh.
Could have been with the TikTok girls at the NBA All-Star game.
Oh!
Now there's a prime job.
Do you have a TikTok, Kyle? You seem like the kind of guy who'd have a TikTok.
No, I'm not letting is it the Chinese this time or the Russians that are behind TikTok? I don't know. Someone behind TikTok that we don't like that are just gathering our data. So no, I don't have that app.
Okay, well, if you ever do, let us know. We can give you a shout out on air. Let people know to follow you on TikTok.
I'm not getting a TikTok, so don't worry about it.
Okay, well, I'm not be so combative about it. I'm just saying, if you do, just let us know.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm not going to get one. So let's move on.
Okay. Just know I'm noting this down in the performance review.
What? This is still a part of the performance review.
I'd
Okay.
like to move to the second stage of the review, and Kyle, I'm going to give you my feedback. And I follow the supervisor leadership form of the reflective sandwich, if you will. So I'm going to sandwich the bad part, the negative parts, the area for improvement around two good things. But they're not actually both good because I couldn't come up with two good things. So the second one's more of an active reflection. But okay, so you ready? Ready for the sandwich?
Hit me with the sando.
Okay. Kyle, I think that sometimes you provide good information and background on the movies. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. Now for the area
Brace
for
yourself.
improvement.
Brace yourself.
You are nothing compared to what we had in Jorge, and I miss him a lot.
Damn it.
Jorge, if you're listening, please come back. We'll fire him in a second if you come back, please. We love you.
And third, to complete the sandwich, I'd like you to think about how you could bring Jorge back into our lives. That's all. Review over.
Yeah. Okay, so my next task is to replace me.
Yeah, so anyway, I think, so the final phase of the performance review is a practical exam, basically. So, Kyle, I really want you to be on your A game for this episode of the podcast, because I'm going to be taking notes the whole time. And at the very end of the podcast, Carson and I will give you a grade on a scale of 1 to 10 of how we think you did on this episode of the podcast. If it's a low grade, we might have to let you go. So we'll see. No pressure.
Cool.
Just be yourself, buddy.
All right.
Yeah. We're all rooting for you.
The unexpected exam. A little pop quiz.
Did you not read your welcome packet? It clearly said every 3 months you have a review. So
I thought we went over it. Might not even be 3 months, but I'm still not sure.
Okay. Oh, well, okay.
I'm not. It's not going to be 3 months.
I'm not the log keeper.
Should I start in on the movie or what?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Go for it. Yeah. You don't need my permission. Just do it.
So this week on Straight to VHS, we're breaking down Netflix's The King. I think what?
I watched The Boy Who Would Be King.
I watched The Outlaw King. Is that different?
Uh-oh.
Yes. These are all. Are you guys serious?
Okay, give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back.
I'll give you
5 minutes.
I just gotta pull up a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. What? Kyle, I need you to read that Wikipedia page out loud, just for fun, no reason.
All right. Well, hopefully my summary, my little intro summary, will be good enough that you guys can just BS it for the rest of the pod.
Okay, can't hurt.
But it reminded me. So, the movie The King, which again we're watching The King on Netflix, is loosely based on the Shakespeare's plays, most famously Henry V, but also parts of Henry IV and other parts of Shakespeare's historical plays from England in that time period. But it made me think, a big part of the movie and both the play and the movie was the Battle of Agincourt. And it just made me think of, maybe the one thing that I remember from history classes growing up is like sort of the bald, slightly fat, glasses wearing history professor or history teacher, if you're still in high school, sort of, yammering on in Western Civ about how the longbow turned the tide for the English at the Battle of Agincourt. And I don't know why, but that fact has stuck with me throughout my entire life, and I'll never let it go. But yeah, man, the English had those longbows, French crossbows. Nothing to go. But anyway, the movie begins with King Henry IV. He's old and a little delirious, perhaps a little crazy. He has lots of enemies, and he's dying. His son, Harry, is an alienated 16th century partier, and he doesn't get along with his dad because he thinks correctly that his father wars with too many loyal English subjects. Henry IV, played by Ben Mendelsohn, dies, and when his brother does as well, young Harry is now King Henry V. And he tries to resist his father's legacy of violence to make peace in the realm and to make peace with France, but due to forces without and within, he ends up crossing the English Channel with the British Navy and laying siege to France. As mentioned, we get the Battle of Agincourt and a few other squabbles, and Henry V discovers what sort of ruler he wants to be. This movie was produced by Brad Pitt, fun fact. And Kyle.
Yeah.
What did you think?
So going in this expectation of this like Netflix movie, I thought it was going to be a little more like low budget and less well produced than it actually was. So I was surprised, and I ended up enjoying it more than I thought I would, and consider it a good movie. Though not, a perfect movie or a great movie by any means, but a good movie. And so I enjoyed it, and I won't say how long it took me to realize that it was based off Henry V and and all that. But I thought really the star was good. So Timothée Chalamet, I thought he really brought it up another level, because he was like going all in on it and was giving it his all, and really brought it up another level for me. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good flick.
I thought it was fine. It was fine. I was entertained. I had some problems with the movie. It underwhelmed me at times, and it exceeded my expectations at other times. So it was like pretty firmly average for me, I think.
Yeah, I think it's weird, even though the takes were, fundamentally different. I really resonated with both of them. I mean, I do think it was just a solid, pretty adequate drama and medieval action movie all in one. But part of why I think I liked it more than Chris did is just sort of the experience of a streaming movie. I came home on a Monday night, after work, and just like wanted to be entertained, and just to be able to pull that up on Netflix, something that went straight to and never really had much of a theater run. It's interesting, I wonder like the reaction that people would have had to that movie had it been something that was released to theaters and had sort of an underwhelming critical response, and maybe only made minimal dollars in the first couple weeks and then faded from memory. I think the fact that it was a straight to streaming movie, sort of as Kyle said, like really surprised me, the degree of acting from certain characters and the degree of production for the big battle scenes and otherwise. Just thought was really solid. But why don't we go, Chris? Why don't you tell us some of your nits with the movie?
Okay, I can talk a little bit about that. I think for me the pacing was a little off. I thought the second half of the movie was a lot better than the first half, and I thought it took too long to get to those interesting moments, especially like once they crossed the channel. I thought it picked up, and that was like probably the halfway mark. I didn't mark it down or anything, but it got steadily better as it went on, and then it was kind of the point where, right when the movie ended, I was kind of like, man, I'm really vibing with this. I wish there was more. And there were some new characters who were introduced right at the end. I was like, oh, these are kind of interesting characters. And instead we had to watch him, like, they described him as a party boy, but his party was basically just lying around mopey, like for a fun bachelor crazed prince drinking and whoring. It wasn't a lot of fun. It was just him lying around whining all the time. Like,
yeah, a real emo kid, frankly.
Yeah. It was kind of a downer in the beginning.
I agree with parts of that take. Specifically, I thought pacing-wise and at the beginning, I thought it was weird that the first character that you see and really understand their motivations was that, like, Percy guy, who, like, ends up being, like, a nothing, right? I mean, he's
Remind
just,
me,
like,
who was Percy again?
I think he was basically like, you see him in the opening battle scene and he goes and he like says like Scotland's that way and then kills a guy, and then he's sitting around
his cousin. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He wanted his cousin's ransom.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's like, King Henry IV, why won't you pay the ransom and like get you said it was his cousin back? That's who it is, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, frankly, I hadn't seen any previews or like anything for this movie, knew nothing about it. I came away from the first 15 minutes thinking Percy was our protagonist. And then he's just like really just set up as the first sort of obstacle for Harry, then King Henry V, to go and try and save his brother from. But like, so I thought that was a weird structural choice for the film.
Shout out young Tommen.
Yeah, hey, friend of the podcast. Good to see you, buddy.
So let's talk about young Tommen Baratheon. I wrote down in my notes Tommen, parentheses, he was so bad, I'm not going to look up and try and remember his name.
What? You can't say that.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, friend of the podcast, Tommen.
Dean Charles Chapman, he's a listener. You can't say that. Dean, we're sorry. Hey, come on, man. Damn.
I mean, do you guys agree? Like, hit me back. I mean,
he was fine.
Take now if you want, but
he was phoning it in, man. He was just hot off 1917. He couldn't spend that much time on this crap. He was just like, sure, pay me Netflix. I'll show up. I'll knock my line readings out of the park and I'll go about my business. How he does, my boy. Come on.
He did what he had to do. He got in, got out. Boom. He got his paycheck.
I gotta say though, we gotta stop picking movies where he dies early. It's starting to become a recurring theme here. We gotta do him a solid here.
Next time on Straight to VHS, we're doing season 6 of Game of Thrones. Stand by.
Okay, good. That's a good idea. Perfect. He's a main character. They won't do anything to him in that.
How about the worst line that we've probably experienced on this podcast so far? Tommen Baratheon, or whatever his name is in this movie.
Dean Charles Chapman. Use his real name.
Dean going, I said no. Yikes.
I mean, at least you could hear him, right? This follows the. I notice it more in prestige television dramas where all these like dramatic actors think they have to like whisper their lines and everything's very quiet and subtle. And it's very intense, but I'm not going to ever raise my voice the entire season. And that was like this in this movie. It's like, speak up, Timothy. What? I feel like an old man.
Did you ever actually have trouble hearing?
Yeah, I was like, I can't hear you, Timothy.
Get your ears checked, man.
I thought turn on the damn subtitles. It's like watching Parasite. What are you saying?
If there's an Oscar for Best Whisperer, he wins it. I thought he was incredible. I thought he was really compelling.
Oh. The first half of the movie, you thought he was incredible?
Well, no. He was better as a king. The first half of the movie, he was not. He was just sort of weird, alienated, super pale kid. But I'm a big fan of Timothée Chalamet. This is not me. This is true of many great actors. Somehow, like the drama directors have all teamed up to decide we're never going to hear what people say ever again in a drama piece of medium. So, oh well. Let's go ahead and talk about one of the other main characters, the Dauphin. Not Dolphin, but the Dauphin, played by Robert Pattinson, the French prince, comes in about halfway through the movie.
Kyle is definitely like the Robert Pattinson of this podcast, so I think Kyle, you take the lead on this one.
Well, Robert Pattinson was delightfully weird. And wait, I'm not really sure what you mean by me being the Robert Pattinson of this podcast.
Well, I'm a huge fan of him as an actor, and he's devilishly handsome, like we already established during your performance review.
Okay, well then I will accept.
I'm sorry, my compliment didn't pass muster.
This was a weird part of the podcast. I'm gonna consider cutting it out on post-production.
You don't do post-production. You just hit file and send it off.
Either way, Robert Pattinson, not really sure his French accent was like accurate, but I didn't really care because he was so weird and just like just evil and vile that I didn't really care, and I just wanted him to keep being weird, and he didn't have enough to do. I'd say give him more to do. Hint.
A hint for us, huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, wow.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the pod.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of Robert Pattinson, who I adore as an actor.
Weren't we all?
All right.
No, I do.
Fact.
Oh, go ahead. What's your fun fact?
Robert Pattinson in this movie. Spoilers. I thought he was terrible. I just wanted him. I wanted him to stop And this is
Once
this is
again,
where the
God.
analogies to Kyle stop. So I'm sorry, my guy. Like I'm not meaning to say you're terrible like Robert Pattinson, but
no, I
man,
get it.
all of his lines are so overdone and so annoying. And what Kyle I think calls delightfully weird, I call mute. And it was just it made me lose all respect for the London Film Critics Circle group
Oh.
because in 2020 or 2019 they gave Robert Pattinson the award for Best British/Irish Actor of the Year,
Well,
and for this role, and
for this role, it was for this role.
for this role, yeah.
Interesting.
But honestly, I think he won it because he was a British/Irish actor, making the French look silly, and so the London film critics were like, "Oh, yeah, it's very good."
I think we should pause our forward progress here and talk about this a little bit because I fundamentally disagree with you on Robert, and I was like very uninterested in most of the movie, laying there. I was like, oh, cool, they're over in France now. And the moment he came on, the opening scene of his, which I believe the tent was the opening scene with him.
Yep.
I sat up. I had a huge smile on my face. I understand it was a little campy, but like this type of movie needs a little bit of camp. God forbid we have some fun during this film. Everything's so dour and serious.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I
just
like
don't
Sir
think,
John.
like,
But go on.
It's not a fun. So I mean, you guys are like enjoying it for the campiness, for like the silliness of it, but like this is like an otherwise tonally very like serious movie.
To a fault, I think. That's why for me, like it's so serious. It's so far up its own butt. Like it's so like this is important cinema. It's like not really. I mean, it's kind of dumb in some parts, and so I'm glad like I'm smiling and enjoying his take on this.
Yeah, I guess we just disagree about that. I mean, they're adapting like mostly King Henry V from Shakespeare and like combining it with some other parts of different Shakespeare plays in ways that, for the most part, I thought was very well acted, very compelling, besides Tommen, as we've talked about. But like basically the king and all of his advisors, I thought were just like, had some really awesome dramatic moments throughout most of the movie. And no, it's not the best drama I've ever seen, but like I thought it was interesting for what it was, and I found Robert Pattinson to be completely out of touch with what the movie was bringing to the table.
Dang, well, you're outvoted, man. 2-1.
No,
tell you, the
Kyle,
podcast defends him.
Well, you get the last word, Kyle. Go ahead and set me straight.
Oh, I get the last word. Well, I just think, I do side with Chris, just to be clear. I think Robert Pattinson comes in and gives this movie just a kind of different tone that it kind of needs, because it does take itself a little too seriously maybe at times, and so having a different kind of perspective from Robert Pattinson, just like kind of doing something completely different than anybody else is doing in this movie, gives it, if everyone was doing the same thing, which they basically were, then it got kind of monotonous at times, and Robert Pattinson kind of breathed some fresh air into the middle of the movie that we all kind of needed. And
to be fair, Kyle, you're always the best with names and stuff. I can't remember his character name or the actor's name for the life of me right now. But who's like the war military guy who's the friend of the king, his advisor guy?
Yeah, Sir John.
Yeah, who's the actor again?
That's Joel.
Thank
Edgerton.
you. Yes,
also one of the writers.
Okay, yeah, he was similar to Robert Pattinson for me, where he knew he wasn't taking himself so seriously and brought a little bit of levity to things.
Yes, I really appreciate him for that too. But he didn't come alive really till the second half either, because he was cast aside, admittedly, by Hal. It was addressed in the movie. So anyway, I agree, Chris. Also,
I think that's just sort of my whole thing with this film is I did enjoy it. I think I'm coming across more negative than I am towards the film, but it was just like kind of drab too. It was just very like muted colors and things, and I don't know. Sometimes these type of movies just kind of depress me a little bit. I want a little more color, a little bit more fun in my life, and I'm not saying it has to be like a comedy or anything, but like life isn't full of grays and dowers, and like show like some green trees or something. I don't know. No contrast.
I don't know how good of a podcast it makes when we just like disagree with each other factually about a bunch of stuff, but like think about like when they're in the throne room with like all of their bright red and gold crowns and like all of that stuff, and like there were at least 2 or 3 scenes of very bright, vibrant setting suns and things like that. I don't know if I agree with the depiction of it as a drab and dull film.
Yeah, but I feel like if it doesn't stick with me, like I'm sure you are correct. There were moments like that, but none of those stood out to me. I don't recall any of them. All that sticks out to me is dudes wrestling in the mud.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, mud wrestling! Finally, I've been waiting all these podcast episodes.
Piqued my interest.
Chris has been saving it all for this.
Oh!
You thought he's been holding back before. No longer. I wanted to start off the discussion with the main, like climax of the film, the Battle of Agincourt, with just sort of comparing it. I'm sorry again to keep drawing on Game of Thrones, but fresh on the mind.
No.
This film came out.
The parallels were obvious.
Yeah, I mean, really obvious. And I didn't see anything in my post-watching research to confirm this, but like the degree to which they drew on the Battle of the Bastards sequence from season 6 of Game of Thrones was just overwhelming. I mean,
straight to where my mind went.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle. Talk about that.
Oh, well, it's just when in the Battle of the Bastards, when Jon's getting bogged down, suffocating in the mud beneath all the men and everything, and then gets like lifted up. That's pretty much, I don't know, shot for shot what happens to Sir John in the King here. Tell me, am I wrong?
No, I think you're exactly right.
Because then and that aerial shot of just like him in the center of all the men, kind of in the, like, it's the same shot of John, and then Sir John, also same name, and then they just in the center of all their men in the middle of the battle and like trying to breathe and everything. Yeah.
Well, and then you also have the French.
It's an effective shot.
No, for sure. Yeah, I thought they did it, and it was a cool thing to parallel. I don't fault the movie for it at all. But you also have, the evil antagonist, the Ramsay-like figure of the French prince, sort of
not quite as bad, but similar vibes.
Right.
I think given him more screen time, he could have been doing some dastardly things.
I don't know, maybe not quite as far, but I do agree. Like his,
I see what you're saying.
Grandiose kind of personality.
That's what I mean.
Obviously, he didn't do the things on screen that like Ramsay did throughout the show. I mean, not saying that at all, but just in terms of being like the villain of the battle, the way he just sort of sits on top of the hill and watches his would-be superior forces look like they're winning, but then not win, and sort of how the battle turns in that way until he decides to join it. What about you, Chris? What did you make of the battle sequence or any of this?
Well, I agree. It was reminiscent of that kind of more modern, gritty fights that we seem to be seeing more in film, and the earlier fight too. Not to go too far off track, where he steps in for his brother to fight the other guy. That was very like down and dirty, cheat fighting. It's not like the fancy sword fighting we see, but. Right. And I guess that's probably how it was back then. Like what we have seen in other films, where it's very like fancy and like intricate sword fighting. Like that's probably not how it was. It's probably just like, I have a sword, I'm going to club you and choke you and tackle you to the
especially
ground.
If they're not as trained. Like these kids probably were.
Right.
They probably just got the fundamentals before they went to war or whatever.
So I do think the fight scenes were all really good, and like I said, I wish there were more of them even. So yeah, I enjoyed those moments quite a bit. The one question I have, and I don't know, maybe it's just my ignorance showing, is did the Kings really like lead the charge? Like, would the King have been fighting in the scrum? Like that seems like. I kind of agree with Robert Pattinson.
On the kind of
king. Like I think a better king maybe should sit up on the hill. I don't know. Like it's.
Well, you would have lost at Agincourt, Chris.
Maybe.
There's your answer.
Maybe, but it just seems like, boy, I don't know if we want to risk the king of our country on the front lines.
Well, how do you get people? It depends if people are already following you or not. But how are you going to get people to follow you if you're not going to do what you just tell them to do?
Well, I guess I'm just questioning if that's actually what happened in history or not. But
okay, well I don't know. okay.
Like, was Charlemagne on the front lines during his fights and stuff? I don't.
He might have been. Kings weren't, I mean.
Dang it.
Anyway.
Shows what I know.
I had the exact same thought. I was like, this can't be right. Like, he like dives into the thick of the battle. Like, he could have just gotten trampled, and that would be
probably
not
right.
Dead.
But all right, try to get anybody to follow you guys.
Well, he got so dang muddy too. He looked so good before the fight started. He got all muddy.
But he's the big dog, remember?
Yeah. The other thing I always wonder in these, and I guess this was true back then too. It's like in the middle of the scrum, and everyone's just swinging everybody. They all look the same.
I said that out loud.
Yeah, this isn't me trying to be like a metaphor. Like they're all people. Why are they even fighting? No. It's like no, they literally look the same. I'd be killing my own men. I would have no idea.
Yep. I thought the exact same thing.
I mean, the English were lighter there at the end. They didn't have the armor on. That was their strategy, Chris.
Oh, okay. So basically just swing at dudes with armor. I feel like I'd be really bad in a medieval fight setting. I would take out way too many of my own men, and then I'd slip in the mud and drown or something. So
I'd go for the knees. I'd just try and stay low. It's sort of like boxing out. You got to really get low and get your butt on people.
Oh, I thought you were saying like you'd crawl around on the ground. And like.
No, Carson goes over the back on the boards as a foul every time.
Oh, shoot.
Should we move on to The Notebook? Are there any other big things you guys want to discuss?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess, do we want to talk about the very end of the film? Like I know we do spoilers usually. Do we want to talk about how the movie ended?
Yeah, I think that's good. So basically, the king, after he's ostensibly won the Battle of Agincourt, France has surrendered. He meets with the older French king who's just lost his son, and to make the truce, offers King Henry V one of his daughter's hands in marriage. Can
we call him Hal? People just call him Hal.
Hal?
Who, the king? I'm not going to call the king Hal. Are you kidding me? Have some respect.
No, Kyle, I think that's a great point. I don't know why.
King Henry V. That's just a mouthful. Come on, let's call it Hal.
That is a real mouthful. You know what? I task you with going back in post-production and editing out every time I say.
Well, now it's not. I'm saying it's not worth that.
Thanks, buddy. You got it. This is going big on your performance review. Can
you edit it so I call him Fiverr? I feel like I want to be the cool hip one. Fiverr.
Finsky.
Yeah. the old Abe Lincoln.
I'd follow Fiverr to the ends of the earth, baby. Let's go.
Okay.
Anyway, old Fiverr realizes that after talking with his soon-to-be wife for the first time, that maybe France didn't instigate any of this at all. Maybe they didn't provoke England. Maybe they didn't send an assassin, and sort of that those things were brought from within Hal's own circle of advisors. And this really dawns on him, and he realizes he didn't think enough about it at the time or whatever, and he confronts his head advisor and has a really tense scene with him. One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Sean Harris is the actor who plays his lead advisor.
What else is he in, Carson?
Are you okay, Kyle? What's going on?
We'll get to it, Kyle. We'll get there. Let's leave that for now.
Think about where that is. Think that name.
Put a pin
folks.
in it.
Okay.
But yeah, and really tense scene with him about how his advisors sort of probably formulated this whole thing to get Hal to start a war with France, and Hal didn't like being manipulated and ends up killing him there. And probably the best scene and one of the last scenes in the movie. Feel free to fill in what gaps I missed, but
basically the English suck and they're the villains. I mean, they started an unprovoked war, killed thousands, including the crown prince of France, stole a lady, stole a woman, returned home, and went, "Damn, our bad."
Hey, that's on us. Well, just so a chief justice could get more land.
Hey, we'll be better next time, France. This is on us. We're gonna be better next time. We'll see you over the next 100 years. Was this part of the 100 Years' War? I don't know.
It was part of the 30 Years' War.
What?
I think.
You sure?
No? Was it 100 Years' War?
Wasn't there 100 years? Oh boy, we're not a history podcast.
Oh
Everyone.
boy.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Oh no.
We're in
I
a little
swear.
deep here.
All right, goodbye. This is too embarrassing. I'm out of here.
I'm really embarrassed about my 30 Years' War take. Was it not the 30
It
years?
could be. I
am. You're the one who was talking about Western
I'm looking
history.
it up. You guys keep going. I'm looking it up.
Oh wow. Hey, thanks,
Look,
Kyle.
all I know, look, our AP, Western Civ teachers or whatever can be proud. I remembered longbows, key to the Battle of Agincourt. You're right. You're welcome. I got that on the multiple choice.
If only the French had a good pair of galoshes. How's that pronounced? Those like boot things.
Oh, yeah. Galoshes.
Goulash is a tasty meal. They probably would have liked that too, but they need a pair of.
Would have been helpful.
Yeah. Either one would have helped them immensely in that fight.
Yeah, it is the 100 Years' War.
Oh!
By the way.
Damn.
Yes.
What's the 30 Years' War? Will you tell me how did I get
that one lasted about.
Okay.
Add 70 years, Carson. You're almost there.
All right. Okay. You want me to learn? Okay. Just keep going,
keep looking
please.
It up. Chris and I will keep going. I had slightly more of a nuanced take on the end. Forgive me, but
go ahead.
It was.
I forgive you.
I don't know. I mean, I think, how it's one of those things how you don't want to be your father, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to, the son is always rebelling against the family and trying to be his own man. But in the end, it almost like portrays King Henry IV in a more sympathetic light, because although maybe by the end of his life he was sort of evil and crazy and vile and warring with people he didn't need to, like, you can understand how, like, having that circle of advisors and counselors and justices around you and the church and all of those things, how that could, cause a leader to wander down the wrong path, just as Hal, did quite easily with, and this was part of the weakness for me of the first part of the movie, is just how quickly this, like, free-loving, I want to make peace young king devolved into, no, I'm taking my whole army to France. Like, I agree, that's when the movie picked up, but the leap there from the beginning to that section was just sort of like, man, what in the world? But I suppose it goes to show, like, I really do think it portrays his father in, like, a different light when you think about it in a whole.
Plus, it portrays him, because you mentioned trying to be different from his father. That was his main thing the entire movie. But maybe this film says, like, we're cursed to repeat the past. Like, it's a lot harder to break away from sort of the path you're set in life. And even though his whole mindset was, I'm not going to be my father, I'm not going to start wars, he ended up starting a war, not entirely his own fault, but starting a war that was pointless and just like his dad maybe did. So it was interesting.
Right. Well, and I do think on that too is, like, from the opening line of the film, granted from Percy, who's sort of a nothing character, the opening line is, Scotland's that way, where are you going, or whatever, seemingly indicating, like, English subjects warring with the Scottish or whatever it might be. They allude to King Henry IV's wars with the Welsh and the Welsh rebels and all of this. And it's like, okay, you might think you're different because you, as King Henry V, as Hal, he might think he's different from his father because he didn't start all this inter-British feuding. But in what sense are you actually different if you say, no, we just have a different in-group? The French are the out-group now.
Right.
They're actually the enemies. You really are just doing the same thing over and over again, just with different boundaries.
Kyle, have you confirmed Carson made up the 30-year war?
Well, I can confirm.
I didn't make it up.
There is a 30 Years' War.
Oh.
It officially, according to Wikipedia, lasted only 29 years, 11 months, 3 weeks, and a day.
What a fraud.
So.
What in the. Wow.
I don't mean to burst some bubbles, but unfortunately, I have the bearer of bad news here.
Was it between the French and the English, at least?
No.
Oh, no.
It was basically like the Holy Roman Empire against like everyone else, kind of.
Oh, Holy Roman Empire versus the world, baby.
Yeah, they lost.
They couldn't even make it 30 freaking years. Well, thanks for correcting me there.
No problem.
Should we do Notebook?
Right. Yeah, with that, let's go to everyone's favorite segment, Notes Ferratu. Kyle.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Do you have any notes?
I do. I got some notes. Let's see if any are good. Doubtful.
Oh, they will be.
Might be another weakness. Let's see.
Yes.
Oof.
Oh, jeez.
I'm looking
do you
at
need me to go?
Do you need to take a fiver or what?
I need a how.
Just like elaborate on the 30 Years' War. Like get a lot of stuff.
Look, I'm good at reading a Wikipedia page, but my own notes, what a mess.
Do you need someone to step in here for you? Or what? I mean,
save me. Yeah, Chris, go.
Okay, how about I'll jump in with my first Nostradam Cathedral. No, like I need to workshop that.
Keep workshopping.
Yeah, you didn't have just a few weeks to workshop it.
Okay. I mean, I don't. I like to do this last minute. I literally just watched the movie 5 minutes into this podcast.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
I was gonna say that's not even true. You watched some other King movie.
I watched both. We're talking about the Outlaw King after this, right? So I wanted, one of my notes was I wanted more screen time for the French princess. I liked the little bit she had. I thought she brought an interesting dynamic to things. And my fun fact, usually this is Kyle's fun, idea of doing fun facts, but that was Johnny Depp's daughter.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Just a little fun fact for you. Sometimes I like to do nice things for you, Kyle. You're always giving us fun facts. I'm going to give you a fun fact.
I definitely appreciate that. But it's called the King, not the princess. So no screen time for her, please.
No women allowed in our war movies. Women. Boo.
Go watch The Crown if you want that.
Yeah, golly.
No, I agree, Chris. I found her very compelling. All right. I don't know if Kyle's ready yet, so
I
gonna
can go.
Nope, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Sean Harris. Here we are.
Oh. Yes. Okay, I'm in.
Playing the lead advisor to Hal as the king. Man, I could not stop thinking about MI6. That is Mission Impossible, Fallout, and not only the movie, which was great, highly recommend, but the trailer for that movie. I mean, just an all-timer. You get this Sean Harris
voiceover.
Refresh
for
the pod, but I didn't need to because in my notes I wrote down verbatim his quotes from that trailer.
Wait, what?
And you went back through and you're like, nailed it.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Whoa, how'd we get Sean Harris on the podcast? Wow, what a get.
Wow, should have introduced him.
I wonder, have you ever chosen not to? The fallout of all your good intentions. The blood will be on your hands. That's all I got.
That's it?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yeah. I just thought he's I recognized his voice before I recognized his face. I was like, I know that voice. What is this voice from? And then it clicked and I was like, Mission Impossible, Fallout. And I was like, and before I even knew that, I was like, this guy's no good. Like the first time I heard him, it's like no
right.
good.
Damn,
man. But then I actually went back on that. Like at the end of the war, I was like, oh, I think this guy's all right. I was like, and then at the very end, I was like, dang it,
you had it.
I had
Trust
it.
your instinct.
I have a bad habit of doing that, but
no, you're exactly right, Kyle.
You're too trusting.
The first line he gives is ostensibly nice and warm, and he's always, being like a good counselor, trying to help the king accomplish what he wants. And all I'm sitting there thinking is, this guy's going to kill Ethan Hunt. He's tracking him down.
I thought, once I remembered it was Mission Impossible Fallout, I was like,
good intentions.
I was like, when's he taking the mask off? or
That would have been quite the twist.
and then it's still, and then it's Robert Pattinson or whatever under there, and he's like,
yeah,
Whoa.
I am the Dauphin.
and then it's all over for our boy Hal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so next episode we will be doing Mission Impossible Fallout. There will be no discussion about this. Go ahead, Chris.
I don't think that's true because I made a promise to our boy Harry Dean Chapman that we would watch a movie of his where he doesn't die. So please don't make me go back on my word to him.
I have a real quick note.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the middle of the battle, right before we realize Sir John's dead, but like when he's in the middle of the battle and he just gets like absolutely walloped in his helmet and everything kind of goes like hollow, like silent, it does in war movies. And he's like clearly concussed, right? So I'm wondering what's the concussion protocol back in the medieval ages? Like coming off the battlefield, is there a blue tent that they go into? Have someone check them out before they go head out back to the battlefield.
He's like, you can't go back in. He's not a king. He's done. We're pulling him.
No, the CTE tents are definitely back near the longbows somewhere. You're right. That would have been proper protocol for him to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Kind of a dark moment.
Well spotted.
Kind of a dark moment. He could have lived if they'd fallen concussion protocol.
He went back out. He sent him back out.
Instead, I mean,
Did they not watch Will Smith? I mean, Will Smith clearly forced him.
Oh gosh.
You think like now all his family's gonna get is that settlement money? What could have been?
And the tinted helmet. What are they going to do with that? It's worthless.
He clearly didn't do his job in the first place.
That's some shoddy craftsmanship. The English got to figure that shit out, man.
Look, this has been a thing, in 15th or 16th century, medieval battles for a long time. They've been, fighting the soldiers' union to get better helmets in place, safer helmets. It's just,
Carson, it's 15th century.
No, I think it was the 1500s, which is the 16th century, isn't it?
It was the 15th century, which was the 1400s.
It was the 1400s?
Yeah.
Why do my notes say the 1500s?
Because you're dumb? I mean, do we have to spell it out? I mean,
because your notes are wrong?
All right, Kyle, Google that. Check
Carson, I already have it in front of me. Why do you think I know this? Why do you think I was ready to call you out?
Doesn't the opening scene in the movie say like
the 15th century? That's what it says in the opening part of the movie. Anyway, all right, bringing us back in.
I have one more note. I didn't have that many notes.
Way to end our moment of jolly there, Kyle.
Well, I didn't want to, but you were wrong.
Hey, Kyle, I'm making a note. That was good. Don't be afraid to call us out. That was good.
Okay. I'm making a different.
Don't worry, Kyle. I control the hiring and firing on this thing, so don't even worry.
Oh, okay. I get it. Got it.
There's only one person you have to suck up to today.
You're doing a great job, Chris.
Oh, hey, wow. That was so unprompted and really nice of you. My last note is, we've talked a lot about the one big fight scene, but I really liked the siege scene too, where they just kept shelling the castle when they first landed. That was a moment where I really liked I had a lot of trouble with the pacing in this movie, but that pacing I thought was nice. I liked how it sat on it, and I liked the visuals of at night when they were firing the flaming boulders or whatever. I thought that whole scene was just good. I thought that was a nice opening to the siege of France.
I'll give my last note here. I just really resonated with how pasty white everyone was. It looked like no one had seen the sun in months. I mean, Timothée Chalamet was the color of my walls. Never had seen the sun in his entire life, and I'm just really.
And you felt seen.
I felt, even though I couldn't see him because he's translucent.
You felt seen, not by the sun, but by everyone in this movie.
Any last notes here, Kyle?
I'm good. I got mine out.
Okay.
Yeah, I really had that big one.
This is everyone's favorite moment. Kyle, please, if you would.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hello? Yeah, you good?
Okay, it's mailbag time. Is that it?
I mean, you're in charge. Are you happy with that?
Happy's a relative term.
Okay.
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Let's just move on.
Okay, well,
we're doing our mailbag segment now for everyone at home who doesn't understand what's happening.
Yeah, I guess I'll give the obvious rundown. We get tons of fan letters, emails, Twitter DMs, all this kind of stuff. And we love hearing from you. Thanks so much. Keep sending them in. And occasionally we read a couple on the podcast. So this is someone who's already sent in one before and had it read, but he's a huge fan. It's Dane from Montana. He's written in before. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't remember his question before, but he's back. And it's kind of a creepy question, but I'm going to go for it. He says, hey, guys, what's happening? It's your number one fan here. He uses a lot of exclamation points. He said, I'm still in love with the show, especially Kyle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he said, I think he's so hilarious and honestly pretty decent looking. I agree, Dave.
Okay.
Right. Anyway, my question is this.
Wow. I don't know how he knows what I look like, but...
we'll get to that later. There's a second part. Okay. I'll read the question, then I'll read the rest of the letter.
Sounds good.
He said, if there was a movie getting made about your life, what song would you want to play over the intro credits? Now, before we answer that, I'll give you guys time to think. He goes on basically for like 4 more pages, so I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to paraphrase, but basically, Kyle, he's been like stalking your Instagram. It's kind of weird. But he thinks he dressed
I had that
nicely.
on private, but okay. Yeah.
He thinks he got through the security system. He thinks he dressed very nicely, loves your shoes, and wants to also likes your feet. He wants feet photos from you. I don't know what that's about, but
it's called a fetish.
Anyway, yeah. Well, okay. Anyway, so Kyle, you got a big fan in Dane from Montana.
That means a lot. I guess do you want me to start with my intro?
I think he would probably prefer if you were the one who started.
So I don't think any of us need to go.
It's my intro credits song.
Intro credits.
Outro,
I guess it could be. It could be either. I don't.
What if my
matters.
movie gets bookended by it? The song.
Oh, it's up to you. It's your movie, man.
What if my movie is just is like the length of a song, and so it's like one song?
That's a music video, but I guess that's fine too.
Because then my music video for my life is the classic Steve Winwood song, "Back in the High Life Again."
Oh,
you thought it was going to be "Higher Love," huh?
I mean, I guess I didn't have that much time to think about it. But...
No. Back in the High Life Again, Steve Winwood. It's everyone goes for the blockbuster hit Higher Love, but I say, check out Steve Winwood's other lesser known songs out there. He's got some good ones. Shout out my boy Steve Winwood.
Please purchase his music. He needs all the help he can get.
All right, do I go? Or is Kyle gonna sing this song that no one knows?
What?
Go ahead, Carson. Oh wow.
I think I'll. I'll either go. I can't pick. I don't follow arbitrary rules established by people I don't know that stalk my friends' Instagrams. So I'm not going to directly answer the question, but it's a tie between "No Such Thing" by John Mayer and "White and Nerdy" Weird Al.
Wait, so your rebellion is picking 2 instead of 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eat that,
Ready to
Dane.
stick it
to
Whoever
him.
you are.
You showed him.
I like it.
So my answer,
You
I don't
zagged.
have a specific song, so I was hoping you guys could help me with that. But I have an artist that I think would be perfect.
Okay.
I was horrified by what was done to him during the Super Bowl halftime show, so I want my boy Pitbull coming in. Let's give him some work. Pitbull,
Okay.
I'm here for
Ooh.
you.
All right. Chris is riding for Pitbull. Not because Lord knows not enough people have.
I mean, come on.
I nominate Fireball.
Ooh. Hey, you got to stop. We're going to get copyright struck.
Oh.
That's enough.
Fireball.
It was too spot on. Your guys' rendition was too perfect. We have to stop.
That's a good point. I was scared of that.
But
Mr.
Nominate...
Quickly, I'd like to nominate International Love. Because, Chris, I know you are both a man of the world and also a lover of love. So.
I love love.
Ooh, yikes.
International Love.
I have more if we want, or we just end it there. It's up to you guys.
Before I forget, real quick, I want to shout out my flying partner Jasmine, who watched this movie with me. I just promised her I'd shout her out. So, shout out to Jasmine. That's all.
Wait, does Jasmine actually listen? Do people actually listen to this podcast?
Yeah.
We've got wow. All right.
Yeah.
Jasmine.
And she would hate me if I didn't shout her out. So thanks for listening.
Big shouts, Jasmine.
I have no one to shout out. No one watches movies with me. I'm all alone, Kyle.
Well,
except when you're on the International Love.
So okay, I guess unless anyone else has anything, maybe we finish up Kyle's performance review, Carson.
That sounds great. Why don't you go first, Chris?
Okay, hey Kyle. So remember, we're kind of doing like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Kyle, I give you a solid 9.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Thank you. Always room
I
for improvement. I like it.
Yeah, I would have given you a 10, but we don't really encourage personal shout outs, during the podcast. So
dang it, I knew it.
You're right at the finish line and you stumbled, but
it's
okay. What are you gonna do?
It was worth it. Hey, Jasmine.
That's an 8, Kyle.
No.
I mean, come on, buddy.
Look, I was gonna give you a 6, but after the 16th century remarks, you dropped it to a 5.
Oof. So for being right, I lost points.
6 for 16th century, 5 for 15th century, Kyle. I don't know.
Them's the rules, I guess.
The rules, yeah.
You don't make them up. All right, you just follow them.
Well, I guess we're stuck with you.
Well, what did I have to get?
What Carson give you?
He gave me a 5.
And I gave you an 8. Oh no, Kyle.
Okay, well,
I shouldn't have brought it up. I mean,
we'll talk.
I got passing grade.
Oh gosh, you had to get a 14. You were 1 off.
Oh, no. You each docked a point.
Oh man, what? Everyone say goodbye to Kyle. This is the last podcast.
Also, Kyle, if you would just ask Jasmine if she's available, we're looking for new people on the podcast.
Or how reaching out to Jorge go? Did you hear anything from him?
Either one.
I'll let you know what Jorge says.
He's hot off producing the Super Bowl. He did a great job. We need him back.
I got an out of office reply.
Anyway, we hope you all enjoyed The King as much as we did. Again, it's The King streaming on Netflix. And until next time, I'm Carson.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm here too still.
And for the last time, my name's Kyle.
And this is the Straight to VHS pod, the Chris and Carson Show. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Kyle. I'll never forget you.